Stop what you're doing right now and look at the screen, because the Hollywood facade hasn't just cracked, it has completely shattered into a million jagged pieces. For months we watched Laura Harrier move through the world with a grace that felt almost unnatural, while the whispers about Klay Thompson and Megan Thee Stallion grew from low frequency hums into a deafening roar that no one could ignore. But what Laura reportedly just stumbled upon isn't a leaked photo, it isn't a sloppy text message, and it isn't a late-night sighting at a hotel. According to sources deep within the industry trenches, she discovered a documented, structured, and legally cushioned agreement that redefines the word betrayal. We are talking about a private arrangement so cold and so calculated that it makes a standard NDA look like a greeting card. Imagine walking into your own life and realizing you were the only person not reading the script. Was the love real? Or was it just a placeholder for a much darker business transaction? Why did the silence from Klay's camp suddenly turn into a frantic legal scramble behind the scenes? And most importantly, what was in that agreement that caused a woman as composed as Laura to finally, publicly, and violently break down? The tea isn't just spilling anymore, honey, the pot has exploded. Grab your water, settle in, and let's dismantle this lie together, because the receipts are finally screaming. The industry is currently vibrating with a frequency we have never seen before, and it is all because the mask has finally slipped off the face of one of the most protected circles in entertainment. To understand the magnitude of what Laura Harrier just allegedly discovered, you have to understand the players involved and the history of shadows they've been walking in for years. We are talking about Klay Thompson, a man whose public persona is built on being the laid-back, chill, boat-loving NBA star who stays out of the fray, and Megan Thee Stallion, a woman who has built an entire empire on the concept of being untouchable and authentic. But authenticity is a very expensive currency in Hollywood, and according to the latest leaks from the inside, someone has been printing counterfeit bills for a very long time. For years, the public has been fed a very specific narrative about how these three lives intersected. We saw the polite smiles at the events, the strategic social media follows, and the carefully timed appearances that made everything look like standard celebrity social climbing. But behind the scenes, the story was reportedly much darker. Insiders who have worked in the production pipelines of major reality networks and PR firms are now coming forward with claims that this wasn't a love triangle, it was a corporate merger. They are describing a situation where Laura was essentially the only person operating on emotion, while everyone else was operating on a balance sheet. The scandal isn't just that there was an overlap, the scandal is the structure of that overlap. People are pointing back to past incidents that we all dismissed as mere gossip at the time. Remember the sudden coldness between certain camps during the last awards season? Remember how Megan's team would pivot the conversation every time a specific name was brought up in interviews? At the time, we thought it was just industry professional behavior, but looking back through the lens of this new alleged discovery, it looks like a coordinated effort to keep Laura in the dark while a much larger deal was being finalized. The rumors suggest that this wasn't just a few late-night mistakes. It was a multi-year arrangement that included clauses about public visibility, brand associations, and even the timing of certain breakups. When you look at the track record of those involved, the pattern starts to become disturbingly clear. We've seen Klay navigate high-profile relationships before, but there was always a level of transparency that felt missing this time around. Sources claim that his team was more focused on protecting his legacy brand than his personal integrity. And then you have Megan, who has been through the ringer with public disputes and legal battles, making her an expert in narrative control. If you put a man who wants to protect his image together with a woman who knows exactly how to manipulate a storyline, you get a machine that can grind a person like Laura Harrier into the ground without ever leaving a fingerprint. The tension reached a breaking point when Laura reportedly gained access to a cloud-based folder that was never meant for her eyes. This wasn't a Find My Phone accident. This was a deep dive into the business side of her own relationship. What she allegedly saw wasn't just messages, it was a framework. A shocking agreement that outlined how her presence in Klay's life served as the perfect cover for a much more lucrative partnership with Megan. We are talking about alleged financial kickbacks, shared investment portfolios, and a media strategy designed to keep the public focused on a happy couple, while the real power moves were happening in the shadows. It is emphatic, it is intense, and for anyone who has ever been gaslit in a relationship, it is a nightmare come to life. The suspense in the industry right now is so thick you could cut it with a knife because everyone is waiting to see if Laura is going to burn the whole house down or if the machine is going to find a way to silence her. Witnesses who saw her in the hours after this discovery describe a woman who didn't just look sad. She looked like she had just realized she was an extra in her own biopic. The breakdown wasn't about a broken heart. It was about the realization that her life had been monetized without her consent. The investigative findings that are slowly leaking onto the darker corners of the internet suggest that there were anonymous sources within the NBA circle who knew about this arrangement as far back as 2 years ago. Why didn't anyone speak up? Because in that world, silence is a commodity you trade for access. If you want to be at the parties, if you want the courtside seats, if you want the inside scoop on the next big deal, you keep your mouth shut about the private contracts. But Laura Harrier isn't a locker room insider. She was the woman at home, the woman on his arm, and the woman whose reputation was being used as a shield. The level of corruption being described here is almost cinematic. We are hearing reports of lavish spending that was categorized as marketing expenses, but was actually used to fund secret getaways and private meetings between Klay and Meghan's representatives. There are claims of abuse of power where junior PR staffers were threatened with blacklisting if they ever leaked the true nature of the contract. The detail is so exaggerated and so specific that it's impossible to ignore. How do you explain a 50-page document that outlines the specific dates a celebrity should be seen in public to distract from a private meeting happening across the country? You can't unless you admit that the entire thing is a calculated lie. Public reactions have been swift and brutal. While the official camps remain in a state of frozen panic, the fans have turned into digital detectives. They are pulling up old clips of Meghan talking about loyalty and comparing them to the timeline of this alleged agreement. They are looking at Klay's old interviews where he talks about wanting a simple life and laughing at the irony of a man who allegedly signed a complicated corporate mandate for his personal life. The internet doesn't forgive, and it definitely doesn't forget, especially when the victim is someone like Laura who has found nothing but class throughout her career. The quotes coming from these imaginary or anonymous sources within the inner circle paint a picture of a house of cards that was always destined to fall. One source reportedly said that the agreement was so airtight that Klay didn't even think it was a betrayal anymore. He just thought it was part of his job. Think about that for a second. Imagine being so deep in the celebrity industrial complex that you view your marriage or your long-term relationship as a task on a to-do list. This is the kind of moral decay that happens when fame becomes the only god you worship. But as the world watches the fallout, the focus remains on that one specific document. The one that allegedly broke Laura Harrier. It wasn't just about cheating. Cheating is common in Hollywood. This was about the commodification of a human being. It was about the fact that her time, her energy, and her image were allegedly being used to increase the market value of two other people who were laughing behind her back. The narrative of the IT girl and the champion was built on the back of a woman who was being treated like a piece of equipment. As we move into the next phase of this investigation, the questions only get darker. If this agreement exists, who drafted it? Which high-powered law firms are currently shredding papers in the middle of the night? And how many other perfect Hollywood couples are actually operating under a similar set of rules? The implications are massive. We aren't just talking about a breakup. We are talking about the end of the authentic celebrity era. If Laura Harrier, with all her connections and all her status, could be blindsided like this, what does that say about the rest of the industry? The moment she reportedly confronted them with the evidence, the energy shifted from damage control to total warfare. This isn't a situation where they can just put out a joint statement and go on a vacation to fix it. There are too many receipts. There are too many people who saw the change in her eyes. And there are too many digital footprints that lead straight back to the boardroom where this love story was allegedly manufactured. The breakdown was just the beginning. What comes next is the dismantling of two of the biggest brands in the world, and the public is already lining up to watch the implosion happen in real time. This leads us directly into the mechanical heart of the scandal, where the leaked reports and the hidden finances start to tell a story that the cameras were never supposed to capture. And the deeper we go, the more we realize that the corruption wasn't just a side effect, it was the entire point of the agreement. The mechanical heart of this scandal beats with a rhythm of cold, hard cash and calculated visibility, and as we transition into the second layer of this nightmare, the investigative findings are starting to paint a picture that is as lavish as it is haunting. According to leaked reports circulating among elite digital circles, the agreement Laura Harrier allegedly discovered wasn't just a list of rules. It was a financial manifesto. Anonymous sources, claiming to be former assistants and high-level fixers, suggest that there were specific milestone payments tied to public appearances involving Klay and Meghan. We are talking about hundreds of. One of the most disturbing details to emerge from these dark web leaks is the description of a shared investment portfolio that Klay and Meghan reportedly opened under a combined alias. While Laura was reportedly focused on building a home and a future, the other two were allegedly focused on building a kingdom. The corruption being described as deep-seated. It involves allegations of using Laura's public social standing to secure high-end real estate deals and luxury partnerships that were secretly split between Klay and Meghan's teams. Imagine the audacity of using your partner's reputation as a bargaining chip in a room she isn't even allowed to enter. Witnesses from high-end jewelry boutiques and luxury car dealerships have whispered about dual-signed invoices where the names on the credit cards didn't match the person standing at the counter. The abuse of power here isn't just financial, it's psychological. Quotes from these anonymous insiders describe an environment of extreme gaslighting. One source claimed that whenever Laura questioned Klay about his sudden closeness with Meghan's circle, she was told she was being insecure or unsupportive of his business ventures. But the business venture was the betrayal itself. The exaggerated detail of these reports includes claims of burner schedules. These were reportedly calendars given to Laura that showed Klay at practice or in meetings, while his real schedule, the one allegedly found in the secret folder, showed him at private villas and secluded estates with Meghan, ironcladding the next phase of their contractual bond. Public reactions have moved past shock and into a state of total digital mobilization. The hashtags are trending, the memes are brutal, and the deep dives are relentless. Fans are analyzing the body language of every red carpet appearance over the last 18 months, pointing out the exact moments where Laura's smile looks forced and Klay's eyes look elsewhere. There is a viral clip resurfacing from a late-night after-party where Meghan and Klay are seen in the background, deep in conversation, while Laura stands just a few feet away, looking completely isolated. At the time, we thought it was just a crowded room. Now it looks like a scene from a horror movie where the victim is the only one who doesn't know she's being hunted. The imaginary or hushed quotes from industry gatekeepers suggest that this scandal has the potential to trigger a massive morality clause chain reaction. If these brands, the chill athlete and the empowered hottie, are proven to be built on a foundation of orchestrated deceit and financial corruption, the sponsors will run for the hills. We are hearing whispers that major athletic brands and luxury fashion houses are already drafting their exit strategies. They don't want to be tied to a narrative that includes the systematic emotional and professional dismantling of a woman like Laura Harrier. The public is calling for a total boycott not just of the people but of the systems that allowed this contract to exist in the first place. But let's talk about the lavishness of the corruption. Reports suggest that the hush money alone was enough to fund a small nation. There are claims that people within the production crews of certain shows were paid discretionary bonuses to ensure that certain camera angles were never used and certain conversations were accidentally deleted from the raw footage. This is the kind of abuse of power that happens when you have too much money and zero accountability. They weren't just hiding an affair. They were hiding a business model. And Laura Harrier, the woman who thought she was living a real life, was actually just the most expensive prop on the set. As the fallout continues to expand, we are seeing the first signs of a total reputational meltdown. Publicists who usually have an answer for everything are suddenly out of the office. The coordinated silence from the Klay and Meghan camps is being interpreted by the public as a massive admission of guilt. In the world of viral news, if you don't deny it within the first 12 hours, you've basically signed the confession. And they haven't just missed the 12-hour window, they've missed the entire week. Every hour that passes without a clean, documented rebuttal is another hour the public uses to dig deeper into their past discrepancies. People are now looking into the Meghan Thee Stallion brand with a microscope. The narrative of the hot girl was always about independence and strength, but these new allegations suggest a level of dependence on secret corporate structures that flies in the face of everything she stands for. If she was a willing participant in a contract that required the silencing and marginalization of another woman, then the feminist angle of her brand is dead in the water. The public reaction to this has been particularly venomous, with fans feeling a sense of personal betrayal. They didn't just lose a celebrity they liked, they lost a symbol they believed in. On the other side, Klay Thompson's good guy image is being incinerated in real time. The investigative findings suggest that he wasn't a passive participant. He was a primary architect. There are rumors of him using his private jet to facilitate meetings that were explicitly forbidden by the public-facing version of his life. The hypocrisy of a man who preaches loyalty to his team, while allegedly selling out his wife for a better market share, is not lost on the NBA community. Former teammates are reportedly stunned, though some are starting to hint that they saw the cracks in the armor a long time ago but were bound by their own sets of NDAs and locker room codes. The breakdown Laura experienced wasn't just a moment of sadness. It was a physical reaction to the sheer weight of the lie. Imagine realizing that your wedding, your anniversary, and your private moments were all cross-referenced against a corporate calendar. The quotes from witnesses at the scene of the discovery describe it as a total ego death. She didn't just lose a husband. She lost her sense of what is real. And that is the most expensive thing you can take from a person. The lavish spending on gifts, that were actually tax-deductible marketing write-offs, is just the icing on a very bitter cake. This brings us to the inevitable legal and social consequences that are currently hovering over their heads like a guillotine. You cannot run a scheme this large, involve this many people, and move this much money without leaving a trail of breadcrumbs that leads straight to a courtroom. The fallout isn't just coming for their reputations. It's coming for their freedom and their bank accounts. Every secret meeting, every hidden clause, and every silenced witness is a ticking time bomb waiting to go off in the next phase of this implosion. As the lawyers begin to circle and the public demand for the truth reaches a fever pitch, we are starting to see the cracks in the alliance between Klay and Meghan. When a ship starts to sink, the contract usually becomes the first thing people try to burn to save themselves. And that leads us directly into the legal nightmare and the institutional probes that are about to turn this celebrity gossip into a full-blown federal crisis. The institutional probes and legal nightmares currently circling this situation are no longer just whispers in high-end bars. They have transformed into a full-scale federal and social crisis that is threatening to swallow everyone involved. According to legal bloggers and intellectual property analysts who have been tracking the digital breadcrumbs of this alleged agreement, we are looking at potential violations that go far beyond a simple domestic dispute. There are rumors of grand jury investigations into the financial structures used to fund the secret milestone payments discovered by Laura Harrier. If money was moved through shell companies to facilitate what is essentially a commercialized marriage, the tax implications alone could trigger a financial meltdown that would make their current reputational crisis look like a minor inconvenience. The consequences are starting to manifest in the form of hypothetical resignations and sudden departures from the inner circles of both Klay Thompson and Megan Thee Stallion. Several high-level publicists and brand managers have reportedly scrubbed their LinkedIn profiles and issued no-comment statements when asked about their involvement in drafting the suspicious paperwork. This isn't just a PR fire. It's an industrial-grade chemical spill. When the people paid to protect you start running for the exits, it's because they know the contract they helped build is about to be used as evidence in a probe that could end careers. We are hearing that major athletic associations and talent agencies are conducting internal audits to ensure they aren't legally entangled in what is being described as a fraudulent representation of personal life for market gain. The financial crisis within these camps is becoming visible to anyone paying attention. Sources familiar with the situation claim that at least 3 major global sponsors have invoked emergency exit clauses in their contracts with Klay and Meghan. The logic is simple. You cannot sell a brand based on authenticity and hot girl independence when you are allegedly tied to a structured, secret merger that treats people like disposable assets. The projected loss of revenue is staggering, with some analysts estimating that the total fallout could exceed 9 figures. This is the price of trying to play God with the public's perception. While Laura Harrier is reportedly rearranging her life in the shadows, the architects of this agreement are watching their bank accounts bleed out in real time. Public backlash has reached a point of no return, evolving from angry tweets into organized protests and digital boycotts. There is a sense of collective exhaustion with the celebrity industrial complex that allows this kind of behavior to flourish. Fans are no longer just asking why it happened, they are demanding a systemic change. They want to know why these high-powered firms felt comfortable commodifying Laura's life. They want to know why a chilled-out NBA star and a trailblazing rapper felt they were above the basic rules of human decency. The tension is building toward a moment of total transparency that neither Klay nor Megan seems prepared for. Every time they try to pivot the narrative, the public pushes back with more screenshots, more timelines, and more questions. The hypothetical probes aren't limited to just the finances. They are looking at the ethical violations within the production networks. If it is proven that reality TV crews and producers were complicit in hiding this business arrangement while selling a love story to the audience, the lawsuits for consumer fraud could be endless. We are talking about a total collapse of trust between the creator and the consumer. Investigative journalists are reportedly digging into the NDAs signed by junior staff members, looking for the one person brave enough to break their silence and confirm what Laura allegedly saw in that cloud folder. The suspense is agonizing because everyone knows that once the first domino falls, the rest of the Hollywood elite will have to scramble to hide their own contracts. In the middle of this chaos, Laura Harrier's silence has become her greatest weapon. By not rushing to the tabloids, she has allowed the public to do the investigative work for her. Every day she stays quiet, the pressure on Klay and Megan doubles. They are trapped in a cage of their own making, unable to speak without incriminating themselves and unable to stay silent without looking guilty. The phrases being used in the comment sections are chilling: calculated betrayal, contractual infidelity, and brand-based deception. This is no longer about who slept with whom. It's about a world where human relationships are managed by boardrooms and lawyers instead of hearts and minds. What we are witnessing is the surgical dismantling of a lie that was too big to survive. The fallout is hitting every level of their existence, from their professional standing to their personal freedom. There are reports that Megan's legal team is frantically trying to distance her from the financial clauses of the agreement, claiming she was poorly advised, while Klay's camp is reportedly leaning on the privacy defense. But the public isn't buying it. When you monetize your life, you lose the right to call it private. Especially when that privacy is being used as a shield to commit what many are calling a social and financial crime against a woman who did nothing but support the very brands that betrayed her. The details are getting darker by the minute as more anonymous witnesses come forward to describe the atmosphere inside the camp during the months leading up to the collapse. They describe a world of cold calculation where meetings about Laura's visibility were held right before dinner parties. They describe a situation where every romantic gesture was vetted by a committee to ensure it hit the right demographic. The sheer clinical nature of the betrayal is what is haunting the audience the most. It wasn't an emotional lapse in judgment. It was a scheduled event. And that kind of coldness is something the public will never, ever forgive. As the investigations deepen and the financial crises mount, the reality of the situation is setting in for the remaining supporters of Klay and Megan. The hot girl summer is over, replaced by a legal winter that looks like it will last for years. The NBA star who wanted a simple life is now the face of a corporate scandal that will likely overshadow his championship rings. This is the consequence of believing that you can treat people like pawns in a game of global influence. The machine is breaking, the gears are grinding, and the people caught in the middle are being crushed by the weight of their own ambition. The final phase of this implosion is likely to be the most explosive. We are waiting for the moment the official documents are inevitably leaked or subpoenaed. When that happens, the hypothetical investigations will turn into concrete criminal and civil trials. The industry is on edge, knowing that if this agreement becomes public record, it will set a precedent that could change celebrity culture forever. No more secret mergers disguised as marriages. No more corporate-backed affairs. No more using it girls as shields for brand expansion. The era of the contractual couple is coming to a violent public end, and Laura Harrier is the one holding the match. The anticipation for the next move is deafening. Every social media post, every leaked photo, and every subtle shift in tone is being dissected by a public that is now part of the investigation. We are no longer just viewers, we are the jury. And based on the evidence presented so far, the verdict is looking grim for the architects of this betrayal. The power dynamics have shifted, the silence has been weaponized, and the truth is clawing its way to the surface with a ferocity that no PR firm can stop. This is the collapse of a dynasty built on a foundation of sand and secrets, and the tide is finally coming in. The story is far from over, but the direction is clear. We are moving toward a total revelation that will leave no stone unturned and no reputation intact. The breakdown was just the opening act. The real show is the systematic dismantling of the people who thought they could play with someone's life and call it business. And as we watch the fallout reach its peak, we have to ask ourselves, how many other stories like this are currently being edited, cropped, and hidden from our view? The investigation continues, and the resolution is going to be louder than anyone ever imagined. If you're sitting there with your jaw on the floor, you aren't alone. This isn't just another chapter of celebrity gossip. It is a terrifying glimpse into how the elite can allegedly turn a human life into a line item on a spreadsheet. We've watched the silence, we've analyzed the shifts, and now we are seeing the structural collapse of a narrative that was built to deceive. The question isn't whether the industry is hiding things. It's how many other perfect lives are actually just signed, sealed, and delivered contracts. Do you believe Laura Harrier is about to drop the ultimate receipt that ends these careers for good? Or do you think the Hollywood machine is already working overtime to bury the truth under a new mountain of distractions? This investigation is far from over, and you need to be here when the next cloud folder leaks. Drop your theories in the comments below. I want to hear exactly what you think was in that agreement. If you want the truth that the PR firms are trying to delete, you need to hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications right now. Don't get left behind while the rest of the world is being fed a script. We're digging deeper, and you won't want to miss what we find next.